of additional dollars, stationing more U.S. troops alongside our NATO allies in Europe. We are selling ourselves and our allies short by not taking the responsibility of leadership this country should be taking. And if we don't continue, it's going to cost our kids and our kids' future. It is shameful that the Republicans and Speaker Johnson are using our most important ally, Israel, as a political cudgel. It threatens not only Israel's security, but America's security and our children's future. I yield back.
Gentlelady from Connecticut reserves. Gentleman from California is recognized.
I'm pleased to recognize the gentleman from Wisconsin, Mr. Van Orden, for 2 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I would remind my colleague that, in fact, I agree with him for one time. These events are connected, and the connection is the incredibly strategic amount of strategic weakness the Biden administration has shown. That's why Putin invaded Ukraine, and that's why Hamas has gone crazy in Israel. Immediately following the attacks of October 7th, I went to Israel and I witnessed what Hamas did to the Jewish people. And as a retired Navy SEAL combat medic, it put me on my heels. And I will remind my colleagues on the other side of the aisle that there was a ceasefire on October 6th, that there was a de facto two-state solution on October 6th, and that was broken by Hamas. And unlike the vast majority of my colleagues on the other side of the aisle, I spent my entire adult life either training for, training others for, or at war myself. So there is a difference between the conflict in Ukraine and what's taking place in Israel right now. Vladimir Putin is a war criminal, and he is after territorial gains. Hamas is a group of savages that are after the utter destruction of the Jews as a people. They want to eradicate them. And there are members of the other party who have been censured, member of the other party that's been censured on this floor for grossly anti-Semitic remarks, and that's what's taking place. Do not be fooled by this political rhetoric. I stand with the Jewish people now. I will stand with them from the beginning to the end, so the river to the sea never takes place. And with that, Mr. Speaker, I yield back my time.
Gentleman from California reserves. Gentlelady from Connecticut is recognized.
Mr. Speaker, I yield 1 minute to the gentleman from California, Mr. Khanna.
Gentleman is recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I will vote no today on the $17 billion aid package, which provides a blank check to Netanyahu, Ben-Gvir, and the extreme right-wing government in Israel. How dare Ben-Gvir, Israel's national security minister, have the gall to criticize America while calling for the mass expulsion of Palestinians? I will vote no because this bill includes zero humanitarian aid while children are dying and 400,000 Gazans face famine. I will vote no because this bill undermines human rights and international law, ignoring the recent ICJ decision calling on Israel to do more to protect Palestinian civilians. I will vote no because it is painfully obvious to the entire world that what is needed today is a permanent ceasefire and a release of all hostages. There come moments in a nation's history when our actions reveal our values. This is such a moment. We must stand for stopping the bombing, for ending this brutal war, and for justice in the Middle East, with a Palestinian state with equal rights living side by side with Israel.
Gentlelady from Connecticut reserves. Gentleman from California is recognized.
Mr. Speaker, I reserve the balance of my time.
Gentleman reserves. From Connecticut is recognized.
Sorry. I yield 1 minute to the gentlewoman from New York, Ms. Ocasio-Cortez.
Gentlelady is recognized.
I thank the chair. Mr. Speaker, more than 1,200 Israelis were killed on October 7th, and 136 remain hostage. In response, 27,478 Palestinians have been killed, 70% of whom are women and children. And most Gazans today cannot reach a fully functioning hospital. This is not war. This is slaughter. And yet, after all this destruction and devastation, the Netanyahu government is still nowhere close to their stated objective of destroying Hamas. Moreover, the United States has our own requirements outlining the transfer of weapons to forces engaged in gross human rights violations. We have a responsibility to honor those laws, to facilitate a bilateral ceasefire, to move to end this campaign of mass casualty and loss of life that risks bringing the entire region closer to a wider, deadlier conflict. This bill contains $17 billion on top of the billions we already transfer every year with no conditions and no humanitarian aid for the most vulnerable. Everyday Americans should not tolerate this squandering of our resources without oversight on such an inhumane and ineffective operation, especially when we are living paycheck to paycheck and they cannot see their Congress address their most basic material concerns. I yield back.
Gentlelady from Connecticut reserves. Gentleman from California is recognized.
Mr. Speaker, I reserve the balance of my time.
Gentleman reserves. Gentlelady from Connecticut is recognized.
Mr. Speaker, I yield 1 minute to the gentlewoman from Michigan, Ms. Tlaib.
Gentlelady is recognized.
Here we go again, sending $17.6 billion U.S. tax dollars with no conditions attached to Netanyahu's extremist government to drop more bombs on innocent Palestinians. The Israeli government has already killed 27,000 people. 11,500 of them were children. I'm tired of my colleagues coming to me whispering, I don't really like Netanyahu. Well, then why are we sending him billions of dollars with no conditions? He literally is telling us over and over again what his intention is. I'm tired of my colleagues coming and whispering to me, Rashida, I support two-state solution. Great. Then send money that conditions for a two-state solution, because Netanyahu has over and over again told us he never wants to see a Palestinian state. So I'm tired. I oppose Netanyahu's war crimes and want him gone too. But many of my colleagues that continue to tell me that do not want to condition the aid. They give it to a genocidal maniac. My message to my colleagues is simple. If you don't support Netanyahu, if you're disgusted by the countless videos of lifeless children pulled out of the rubble, if you actually believe in upholding human rights and international law, vote no on a blank check to Netanyahu's genocide.
Gentlelady's time's expired.
Thank you.
Gentlelady from Connecticut reserves. Gentleman from California is recognized.
I would say the folks that believe in genocide is Hamas. I yield to the gentleman from Florida, the chairman of the State and Foreign Operations Subcommittee, Mr. Diaz-Balart, 2.5 minutes.
Gentleman is recognized.
Mr. Speaker, thank you. Let me first thank the gentleman from California, Chairman Calvert, for his leadership in drafting this critical bill, along with the Chairwoman Kay Granger, and the leadership for bringing this forward. As Mr. Calvert just said, yes, there has been genocide, but the genocide has been from Hamas. And if the world needed yet another reminder of the importance of Israel as a safe haven for the Jewish people, then the attacks of October 7th should be that wake-up call. This is not that complicated. I've been disgusted and shocked by some of the things that we've been hearing, including the sheer glee and displayed in celebrations across, even in this country, because of the murders of October. And remember, those grotesque celebrations and demonstrations happened before Israel even began its military action to defend Israelis, again in Gaza. So let's be clear. Those demonstrations, those statements, those celebrations were and are in favor of the terrorist group Hamas. The despicable anti-Semitism, which has been dramatically increased since October 7th, that we've even seen here sometimes on this floor, has to be condemned and has to stop. Israel is on the front line in the battle against terrorism. The terrorism of Hamas, Hezbollah, ISIS, you name it, and all of those, they continue to await for an opportunity to strike at Israel, as they have, just like they want to strike here to the American people in the United States. Israel and the United States do not want violence. But the problem is that the terrorists do, and they are the ones who have killed and butchered and maimed innocent Israelis. Again, last November, the House passed another Israel security supplemental, which was fully offset by a rescission of the IRS funding, and that was the reason why the White House claimed that they opposed that bill. Well, now there are zero excuses to oppose this bill. This bill does one thing, Mr. Speaker. It provides urgently needed funding for our friend and ally Israel to defeat the terrorists that they are dealing with. The United States must stand with Israel and to eradicate terrorism. This is not that complicated. You can use every excuse in the world and again with the purpose of supporting Hamas and justifying the murders. This bill stands with Israel. No ifs, no ands, no buts. I'm grateful to Chairman Calvert for bringing this important piece of legislation, and I wholeheartedly support it. I yield back.
Gentleman from California reserves. Gentlelady from Connecticut is recognized.
Mr. Speaker, I yield 1 minute to the gentlewoman from California, the distinguished ranking member of the State and Foreign Operations Subcommittee, Ms. Lee.
Gentlelady is recognized.
Thank you very much. I want to thank the gentlelady for yielding and for her strong leadership. Mr. Speaker, I rise to oppose H.R. 7217. The United States and the world are facing a very dangerous time, with the risk of being pulled deeper and deeper into conflicts across the globe. Meanwhile, millions of people around the world are facing violence, dislocation, and hunger. This bill really is not a serious effort. As the ranking member of the State and Foreign Operations Subcommittee, I cannot support a bill that fails to meet the challenges of this moment and abandons those most in need of humanitarian assistance. And yes, this bill undermines the United States policy which supports a two-state solution. This bill is a blatant political stunt that is dead on arrival in the Senate. And so I urge my colleagues to oppose it. Thank you, and I yield the balance of my time.
Gentlelady from Connecticut reserves.
Yes.
Gentleman from California is recognized.
May I inquire how much time is left? Both sides.
Gentleman from California has 30 seconds. Gentlelady from Connecticut has 2 minutes.
Mr. Speaker, who has the right to close?
Reserve the right to close. Gentlelady from Connecticut.
Yes,
reserve.
I'm prepared to close.
Gentleman from California reserves. Gentlelady from Connecticut is recognized.
Okay, thank you. A short while ago, my colleague from Arkansas said it is our solemn duty to protect our allies. Indeed, it is our solemn duty to protect our allies. Our allies in this case are Israel, yes, and we support Israel. Our ally is Ukraine, and we need to continue to support Ukraine. Our ally is Taiwan, and we need to support Taiwan. We have a solemn duty, yes, to provide humanitarian assistance to innocent civilians. We have a solemn duty to protect our border. These are not the issues that are part of this bill. This bill does not meet those solemn obligations. My Republican colleagues do not want to help Ukraine or the Indo-Pacific and Taiwan. They do not want to address border security. They talked about border security as being the key to opening up the door to foreign assistance. They said it in the White House. The Speaker did that and now has walked away from it. It is really a political sham. They do not want to promote humanitarian assistance and leave millions of innocent civilians without food, shelter, clothing. In a conversation with the director of the World Food Organization, Cynthia McCain, she said, and I asked about Gaza, she said to me, Rosa, these people are starving. It is a famine. And I believe that is as well in this process of providing assistance to just Israel and not our other allies. They do hurt Israel and isolate Israel. It is time for my colleagues to be able to, on the other side of the aisle, to put our country and our national security ahead of partisan politics. What we should do is to vote this bill down. I yield back.
Gentlelady from Connecticut yields. Gentleman from California is recognized.
The gentlelady yields the balance of her time.
Yes, sir.
I'll close. The gentlelady is correct. This bill is not about Ukraine or Indo-PACOM or some other things that I would love to have some discussions about in the future. This is about Israel. And I think my friends on the other side of the aisle know I'm not a cynical person. I went about this. I've been in favor of moving an Israel bill for some time, and now is the time. I I think it's just simply the right thing to do. And with that, let's pass this bill. Let's support Israel. And I yield back the balance of my time.
The question is, will the House suspend the rules and pass the bill H.R. 7217? Those in favor say aye. Those opposed, no. In the opinion of the chair, 2/3 being in the affirmative, the rules are suspended. The bill is passed. Without objection, the motion to reconsider is.
Mr. Speaker,
Purposes of the gentlelady from Connecticut.
I ask for the yeas and nays.
The yeas and nays are requested. Those favoring a vote by the yeas and nays will rise. A sufficient number having risen, the yeas and nays are ordered. Pursuant to Clause 8 of Rule 20, further proceedings on this question are postponed. Proceedings will resume on questions previously postponed. Votes will be taken in the following order. The motion to suspend the rules and pass H.R. 1727 if ordered. Adoption of House Resolution 863 if ordered. And the motion to suspend the rules and pass H.R. 7217. The first electronic vote will be conducted as a 15-minute vote. Pursuant to Clause 9 of Rule 20, remaining electronic votes will be conducted as 5-minute votes. Pursuant to Clause 8 of Rule 20, the unfinished business is the question on suspending the rules and passing H.R. 1727 as amended, which the clerk will report by title.
Union Calendar Number 297, H.R. 1727, a bill to amend the Chesapeake and Ohio Canal Development Act to extend the Chesapeake and Ohio Canal National Historical Park Commission.
The question is, will the House suspend the rules and pass the bill as amended? So many as are in favor say aye. Those opposed, no. In the opinion of the chair, 2/3 being in the affirmative, the rules are suspended. For what purposes? The gentleman from California seek recognition.
Mr. Speaker, I demand the yeas and nays.
The yeas and nays are requested. Those favoring a vote by the yeas and nays will rise. A sufficient number having risen, the yeas and nays are ordered. Members will record their votes by electronic device. This is a 15-minute vote. On this vote, the yeas are 427, the nays are 2, 2/3 being in the affirmative. The rules are suspended, the bill is passed, and without objection, the motion to reconsider is laid on the table. Pursuant to Clause 1C of Rule 19, further consideration of House Resolution 863 will now resume. The clerk will report the title.
House Calendar Number 60, House Resolution 863, Resolution impeaching Alejandro Nicholas Mayorkas, Secretary of Homeland Security, for high crimes and misdemeanors.
The question is on the adoption of the resolution. Those in favor say aye. Those opposed, no. The ayes have it. The resolution is agreed to.
Mr. Speaker, on
what
that,
purposes the gentleman from Mississippi seek recognition?
Mr. Speaker, I request the yeas and nays.
The yeas and nays are requested. Those favoring a vote by the yeas and nays will rise. A sufficient number having risen, the yeas and nays are ordered. Members will record their votes by electronic device. This will be a 5-minute vote.
On this vote, the yeas are 214 and the nays are 216. The resolution is not adopted. For what purpose does the gentleman from Utah seek recognition?
Mr. Speaker, I have a motion at the desk.
The clerk will report the motion.
Mr. Moore of Utah moves to reconsider the vote on adoption of House Resolution 863.
The question is on the motion to reconsider. Those in favor say aye. Aye. Those opposed say no. The ayes have it.
Mr. Speaker.
The gentleman from Utah.
Mr. Speaker, I request the yeas and nays.
The yeas and nays are requested. Those favoring a vote by the yeas and the nays will rise. A sufficient number having risen, the yeas and nays are ordered. Pursuant to Clause 8 of Rule 20, further proceedings on this question are postponed. Pursuant to Clause 8 of Rule 20, the unfinished business is the vote on the motion to suspend the rules and pass H.R. 7217, on which the yeas and nays are ordered. The clerk will report the title.
H.R. 7217, a bill making emergency supplemental appropriations to respond to the attacks in Israel for the fiscal year ending September 30th, 2024, and for other purposes.
The question is, will the House suspend the rules and pass the bill? Members will record their votes by electronic device. This is a 5-minute vote.